Y'all listen. I'm gonna keep singing,
Singing,
I'm gonna keep singing,
singing,
I'm gonna keep singing, yeah.
singing,
Said I'm gonna keep singing.
singing.
Get it.
To celebrate the 80th birthday of Ray Charles, Concord Records wanted to do something special.
We're looking at it as a celebration rather than a memorial.
Jeffrey Spector is project manager at Concord.
The idea here is let's celebrate his life and let's do something different to mark that, at least from a recording side, rather than just put out another thematic compilation or reissue.
I will just tell you it is a room, and it is called The Vault.
Valerie Irvin, president of the Ray Charles Foundation, worked closely with Ray in his last decade and remembers how the late genius recorded a wealth of material he stored in his vault.
And that was his domain, his sanctuary. Only 3 people had access to that room. And yes, everything is very systematically organized. And we know where everything is today. Now, you know, prior to his passing, you know, there was no rhyme or reason because there was either Braille or no markings, and Mr. Charles knew where everything was.
I had worked with Ray Charles' catalog at Rhino Records starting in 1996. I really enjoyed it, got a chance to work with Ray, and got to know some of the unreleased material, most of which was released.
Music business veteran James Austin went through the vault seeking unreleased material.
I came over there for 2 weeks and sat down and went through a database of, you know, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of songs, and had to figure out by comparing those songs to the songs that were released, well, what is unreleased? So I brought my Ray Charles album collection, went to iTunes, went to, you know, All Music Guide, did comparisons and came up with a body of work.
It took me some time to go in there, but I started with just the DATs, and I think when I put the first DAT in, I couldn't stop. And I just would listen probably 2 or 3 hours a day, every day. And it was so overwhelming. It was so much music. You know, some finished, some not, some tracks were there. It was just, it's incredible amount of music. So we set up every Friday that John Burk would come to the office and we would listen to things. At that point in time, we started going to the vaults and searching if there were multi-tracks or how far it was done.
Well, the tapes were in all kinds of formats.
Concord Records chief creative officer John Burk, who produced the mega hit Genius Loves Company, was also on board for Rare Genius.
The ones that we're using for this particular project all happen to be on 2-inch tape, 2-inch 24-track tape. They're roughly from the same era, from the, I guess probably the mid-70s to the 90s. It really varied. There were some songs where Ray had recorded everything. It was completely ready to go. There were a few of them that that was pretty much the songs from the 80s. In the 90s, he was doing a lot of demoing of things, so he was pretty amazing in terms of keeping up with the times and the tools and the technology that would help you record. So he seemed to get, I'm not sure when exactly, but he seemed to get in the 90s into doing a little bit of programming and, you know, using synths to sort of sketch out the kind of arrangements he wanted for songs, and then he'd sing them. So there are a few songs on here, like Isn't It Wonderful, and There'll Be Some Changes Made, that basically just had Ray playing along with some very simple demos, you know, like maybe just a standard drum loop or something just to keep time and some things like that. So obviously those songs needed drums and bass and piano and, you know, horns and other things that he had sort of laid out. So in that case, we tried to stay as close as we could to Ray's vision for it and just help execute it for him. So assuming that he laid this out as a demo, as a guide for the musicians, we just brought in the musicians and had them play the parts.
Seasoned keyboardist Larry Goldings is a much in-demand sessions player.
Like Nat King Cole, he had this way of understatement and just finding the right texture behind his singing, and just his choices were so perfect. Touch, of course, his feeling, which I suppose is all an extension of his voice. You know, I always felt like his playing was always just an extension of what he could do phrasing-wise, inflection-wise with his voice. My job was to sound as much like Ray. You know, what would Ray play behind himself, you know, on this track. And it was a little bit daunting, I have to say. I mean, there's no one on earth who can really imitate that.
Now give it to me. If you see the tears fall from my eyes.
He sung that song live, but no one's ever heard the studio version. It's never been on a record. And it's just simply incredible. And when I heard it, I can feel him. I saw him in rare form kicking that leg up and bouncing off of it. I mean, it was just, the band was tight. It was just incredible.
This is just a great swinging number with a terrific arrangement that Ray had worked out on the road. He played this song a lot live. And in fact, I think it made its way onto a live recording or two, but there had never been a studio version released. We didn't know there was a studio version until we went in there and found this. So this is Ray's studio version of a song that he did often on the road. It was kind of a, you know, touring hit for him. It just never found its way onto an album.
Good as it is, how can it hurt to be in love? I don't know, but I know this. You can do what you want to do, baby. I ain't gonna stop loving you. You. I must be crazy. All this pain to be in love.